There are two subtotals, né? There's a subtotal feature and a subtotal function. Which one do you teach? The feature is the one you should be teaching. How do you get to the feature? Open your Excel. How do you get to the feature? Where do you find it?
Data.
Oh, data.
Data and then subtotal, né? Outline subtotal. Okay. Let's look at the subtotal. I want you to refer to a report grouping in Access. Okay. How does a grouping in Access work? What do? Let's say you've got classes, and then in Access, what do? You group it, for example, per class. And then how does it display in Access?
Sorted.
So in other words, the classes are grouped together, sorted per class. So you've got class A and all the learners, and let's say class B and all the learners, or you've got the month, January and everything that happened in January, and February and everything that happened in February. What else can you do in a report in Access? You can add a calculation in the group footer or the group header, which does what?
Calculates the sorted part.
So only the
Group.
can I say the
Yeah,
group part?
the group
So it's
part,
only the
yeah.
group part. Okay. Now let's look at the subtotal feature. It works exactly the same way. So where it says add each change in means what do you want to group together? So I want this information in Excel to be grouped by date of birth. Okay? So what will it appear like? Date of birth and everything that's together with it. Alright? And another date of birth and everything that's together. Alright? Then, in Access report, you can calculate, right? You can calculate in the group footer which functions do you use normally, or the kids know. Count, the usual ones. Sum, count, average, min and max, etc. It's the same thing here. So basically the second part says use function. Which function do you want to use in this group? Okay, so I've got date of birth. Now which function do I want to use in this group? So in this case it will be a count because I can't sum dates. Alright? Now, where do you want the subtotal to be added to? Let's go back to Access. In Access, you have a group, right? And then you've got a function. Let's say the function is count. And right next to the function, you've got a field. What is that field? That field in next to the function in block brackets. What is that?
This is the text, the descriptive label
Of what?
of that which you've counted.
And that of which I want to count, basically. So in other words, I've got count, and right next to it I've got a block bracket, and then I've got a field name to say, okay, count this for me, right? So we've got three things in the report. We've got the grouping, we've got a calculation, and then we've got a what to calculate. Right, exactly the same thing in subtotal. We've got a group, date of birth, we've got a function, count function, and then the add subtotal to is what do you want to calculate. So it works exactly the same. The cool thing about the subtotal is you just click, 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 done. Alright.
Which is it?
The problem is which to click. But I think the moment that you start visualizing, I've got a group, and then I've got a calculation, and I've got a calculation on something, it should work. Alright, the next one is only 2 minutes. 2 minutes. The stock subtotal worksheet, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes including reading time. And go. Right, let's look at the subtotal feature. Just read the question. There are 3 things that you need to identify. 1, what should it be grouped on? 2, what function? And 3, on what do you want that function to calculate? Alright, let's read it. The subtotal feature to group column F, hard drives. So that answers our first question. On what do you want it grouped? On hard drives. 2, so that the total price displays what function? Sum. And on what do you want to sum? On price. You can identify everything from the question, right? Let's have a look at how easy it is. Okay, we're in the subtotal, so we go to data, then we go to subtotal, and then on what do I want to group? On hard drive. What function? Sum. And what do I want to sum? Price. And I give it okay, just okay, right? And then I want to ask you, but why does it only count 2 marks? Why not 3? Because it feels like 3, ne? 1 for grouping, 1 for function, 1 for what to calculate on.
Because it's already there.
Because the only thing I had to do was to select hard drive. So technically it actually should have counted 1 mark. Alright? But because sum was default and price was default, there was 1 mark allocated for it. It's just some of the kids are going to be very clever and change sum to count, and then they'll lose the mark. Right? So basically sometimes you tell them, just leave it as it is. Don't mess around with it. Alright? Just something I didn't say as loud as I should have, that this change in the grouping must be sorted, obviously, because in Excel you can't add the grouping to a non-sorted column, because where will the group be? So basically you need to sort the table first according to whatever you want it to be, and then you add the grouping. Alright. Okay, the next function is the Randbetween. You have seen this before. There's a top border, can I say, the top boundary and a bottom boundary. Okay, so give me an example of numbers between.
So like 5 and 10 would be 3, 4, 5, 1 and 2.
Like between,
oh, sorry,
no, we want the insides. Okay, so between 5 and 10 would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Note that there's a difference between computer language and English. Right? In English, those of you that taught English, in English if you say between, the 2 boundaries are not included. But in computer language, if you say between, the boundaries are included. So if you see the Randbetween function, you'll see that if we've got the bottom boundary and the top boundary, that these 2 boundaries, number 1, are included and everything in between. The second rule is that the bottom boundary obviously must be smaller than the top boundary, okay, for the purposes of, can I say that? Right. The difference between the Randbetween and the Rand function?
A rand between a rand is there's a 0 and 1.
Okay, so Rand numbers, Rand functions numbers are between 0 and 1, including decimals, whilst Randbetween does
whole numbers.
Whole numbers from whatever range to whatever range. Alright? That's the difference. Okay. Sheet 7 calc. I just want you to go to 7 calc because there's a little trick here. Or not a trick, a good confusing part. Right? What's it? 3 minutes? Okay. So you open 7 calc, you must be in the nom worksheet. And if you look at the nom worksheet, the only one I want you to do is the one in A3. Alright? Not all of them. If you've done this question paper before, you'll know that you need to do the rest as well. But I just want you to do that Randbetween one. Okay? 3 minutes and go. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the solution. Did you get it in 3 minutes? Are you starting to get the feel of some things take longer and some things don't? Alright? That's an important lesson you need to teach your grade 12. Can I say stronger kids? Not the ones that put some in front of everything. They're not going to finish anyway. Right? But the ones that want to finish because they get nervous. If their 3 minutes are over and then they still haven't finished the question, then they start getting nervous. So just do this with them so that they get comfortable that, remember, some questions do take longer and some questions don't take as long. Alright, how did you do it? What did you do?
100. Oh, 100, 199.
The only trick that I can figure was a trick here was a 3-digit number. The smallest 3-digit number we know is 100, and the biggest 3-digit number we know is 999. Alright, so basically from 100 to 999 would give you a rand between. Alright, now because kids don't really know the difference between 100, 999, they weren't familiar with the 3-digit thing. When we were marking last year, we accepted, although it's not on the memo, but we accepted any 3-digit number here and any 3-digit number there, as long as the first one is smaller than the second one. So we accepted anything because they didn't know. Some of them went 111999, and then they just didn't do it. Okay, then the other option is you can run between 1 and 9, 0 and 9, 0 and 9 3 times and concatenate it. That's one option. And then you can do the rand. You want me to explain this one to you? Because I can. No, but some kids that come from IT know the rand function. They don't know the Randbetween function. So they understand the syntax of a rand function, and they were able, and we got it at the marking, they were able to actually give us that lovely long rand function. Okay. Okay, let's get to dates. I should have put this first then. I should have put the dates and time functions before the nested if, but I did it on purpose.
Can I just quickly ask on that previous one, the rand? Didn't they give you a decimal number? Which one? The second option.
No. No. You take the
Stand up with a. You end up with 100 up to 999, comma something something. Didn't it end up with it? Yeah.
Okay, take your calculator, let's say 0.4 times 899 plus 100, and then it gives you a 3 digits comma, and then you enter it or take the format away.
Because then you would have to still you would have to use a round function with that because of the next question.
Or int.
Yeah, or int.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, there's a few things about dates that you need to remember. Okay, let's start with day. Day extracts, we know that. Day extracts the day out of a date. Right. However, where it extracts from must be a date format. Alright? And what it extracts become an integer. Okay? So I'm going to say it again. If you want to use the day function, not if, when you use the day function, you are putting in today's date, right? So here's today's date. And then you use the day function to extract the day from today's date. Now, the cell where it comes from, or the cell that you actually refer to, must be in a date format. Alright? And day, when it extracts, come as an integer. Come as a whole number, if I could say it like that. A number between 1 and 31, depending on the month. It's actually sharp like that. Now, type in 1 January 1900 in your Excel now. 1 January 1900. One, eh? 1. Change it to number. Change it not the type to number. It's 1, eh? Alright. That means that Excel was programmed in such a way that our dates start from 1 January 1900 as 1. If you type in today's date, now type in today's date and change it to number. What is it? 14 should be 25. 43 something. 43.
7.
The last training I did was 43.55. Okay, what does that mean? What does it mean?
It counts the number of days since 1st of January 1900.
So, it counts the number of days from the 1st of January 1900 up to today. Alright. Now, if you want to calculate the difference between days, do you actually have to take day and subtract the two from each other? You can actually just subtract the date from that date and change it to number, because Excel was programmed to change it to days automatically starting 1 January 1900. Remember the millennium? I don't know if some of you remember the millennium. Then people were going to go, computers are going to explode. Yeah, Excel was also going to go and explode because we weren't expecting 1 January 2000 to be 32,526 days from the 1st of January 1900. Because in 1900s we didn't have computers, so they were afraid that something's going to blow because of the change in millennium, right? If you type in 18 in year, right, and you don't say 2018, Excel is programmed to start from 1900, so it makes it 1918. It's just some things that Excel does that's just not happy with.
Up to 30, then it changes to 2000, and it's after 31 that it goes from 19.
Years. Up to 30.
From 31, it goes to, it defaults to 1900. From 0 to 30, it goes default to 2000.
Really?
No, you can test it, it's in the study of subtext.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit more recent versions.
Possibly. Possibly. Okay. Right, so.
It's not really
And then ons ou Quattro Pros didn't work like that. I had a guy that works with me. So when he started working with me, he went like, oh, you can program. So I like, yeah. Then he says, I can also program. I said, that's great. Which language? So he goes, Quattro Pro. So I'm like, okay, I know what you know about programming. Definitely not Quattro Pro. So now we call him Quattro Pro. Okay, so let's see day. Remember this thing, that the date in which or the cell in which you extract the day must be in date format, and what comes is an integer. Alright. Then the same with month. Month extracts the month. But when it comes as an integer. Alright? A whole number from 1 to 12. Okay? But the cell in which it comes from must be a date. Else it gives you an error. The same with year. And the Excel function year extracts the year, but if it comes from a date cell, it extracts the year, else it gives you an error. Okay. Right. Now let's look at the date function. So there are two things that you can have. You could either have 1 for the day, let's say 12 for the month, and let's say 2017 for the year. Those three are numbers, alright? And then you use the date function to make them a date, alright? So there are two things that can happen. One, you have a date function and a date format, and you convert them to integers with a date, month, and year function, or you have numbers and then you convert them to a date. Do you get what's happening? Alright. Now what happens here? You take the year function, so look at the date. Eh? I just told you now, the year function, that year must be a number. It can't be a date. Do you see that? Because the year function makes it a number. Alright? So that year must be a number, the month must be a number, and the day must be a number, and if you use the date function, it makes it a date. Alright, are you getting what I'm trying to tell you here? So, if you've got 3 loose numbers, you use date function to make them a date. If you've got a date function, a date cell with a date data type, and you want to change it to numbers, you use year, month, and day. Have you got me? Right, now you need to remember that when you do the next exercise. Okay? But before we do the next exercise, you see, if the years between, that's what it said here, the years between 0 and 1900, Excel will add 1900 to the year. I will just go and check that again, yeah. Maybe it was the previous version, I don't know. I'll check now. Anyways, if you want to bring a month to a date function, and that month's number is 13, Excel automatically makes it 1 year, 1 month. If you get what I'm trying to say. So if you want to extract, did you get that post please? Yes. Is that you? When you want to bring in, let's say, a day, and that day is 33, depending on the number of days in the month, Excel makes it 1 month and on, let's say, 2 days. Do you get where I'm going with this? So Excel is very sharp when it comes to dates. It knows certain months have 30 days, certain months have 31 days, February has 28 days, etc. It knows that. And if you refer to something that is incorrect, Excel corrects it for you and adds, let's say, 1 year, 1 day, for a month, at least 1 day. Okay. Right. Now remember what I just told you. And now you're going to do the date function. And the date function, if you look at your activity, just check that it is cell B4 in which you have to enter the date function, but you need to use cell B1 to do it on, if you look at that. Alright, are you ready for 5 minutes? And go. Okay, just check. The one thing you needed to remember is that you had to go and extract the year, which was an integer, alright? Add an integer to it, and then use the date function to make it a date again. Alright? Yeah, it's a bit heavy. Can we say it again? So, you can't, the mistake I normally make is I go date B1 plus 1.
In brackets.
Yeah, but it's a mistake. You shouldn't be doing that. So, you need to put the date and then call the year, which makes it a number. Add a number to it, because you can't add a number to a year, or to a date, at least. That's the mistake. Okay? So, get it to a number, add the number to it, and then use the date function to make it a date again. That's what happens behind the scenes at the moment. Alright? So we've got a date from there, we're extracting the year, we're extracting the month, and we're extracting the day, and then we're increasing it to what it's supposed to be increased as a number, and then we're using the date function again to combine it into a date. That's what happens. Okay. Are we okay with this one? Did you manage?
All I was doing was I was saying B1 plus 1, both in brackets. And it kept giving me the same date, as what the original date was. So I just obviously had to put B1 plus.
Yes. Okay. Are we fine with this one? Right. Now, there's a days function. There's a days function that comes. It came now. New versions of Office has a days function. Not all versions of Office have it yet. But what it basically does is it extracts the days from the 1 year or date to the other date. Alright? Do you need to use the days function though? You don't? Because now that we know it comes in days. Alright? In Excel it comes in days. You can just subtract the one from the other one. Its days are going to show. How do you get it into months? So if you take 2 days to subtract 2 days from each other, and you get the number days, let's say 700 whatever odd days, and you want those days to be in years, what do?
Divide by
365, and if you want it by months, then you divide it by
12.
12.
After that.
Yeah, after you got that.
Yes, but if you have days and you want to convert it to months, should we divide it by 30?
Yeah, it should be close enough.
I'll do something completely. I'll
Yeah,
show you what I
30s,
mean.
31s and 30s cancel each
No,
other.
it's about.
Yeah.
Okay. But you, like I said, you don't have to use the days function. But I think, can I be honest, I would teach the days function to the learners, but because to try and explain to them that it comes in days, don't worry about the date and so on. It's complicated logic for them. So what they need to do is just explain to them, take a date, and then if you subtract the two from each other, it gives you days. Okay? We're not going to do the exercise though. I just want you to look at the solutions. There are three options. G7 minus F7 because Excel automatically makes days. Alright? Okay. Alternatively, you can use the days function, start date, end date, and then you know the difference. But in this specific case, you could have taken because it was the same month. If it's not the same month, it won't work. But in this case, it was the same month. So you can take out the day from this and the day from that because it's the same month and just subtract the two from each other. Okay. Going on? Will you stop me?
I'll show you now what I mean.
I'll check when we got it. Right, let's look at hour. Hour is the same, just now it's time. Alright? Same story. The cell from which you extract the hour must be in time format. Alright? So the cell from which you extract the hour and the minute and the second must be in time format. When it comes, it becomes a number, an integer. And when you want to combine it back to a time again, you use the time function. Right? Just note, it can be, you can bring the hour, you can bring the minute, but if you make the second 0, then there's no seconds. We normally don't work too often with seconds. We always work with hour and minute. So you can, instead of putting second, you can put a 0, then it's 0 seconds. Okay. I'm not going to do this exercise, but even though I'm not going to do this exercise, just tell me what I would have done. If you look at this. A person counting stock needs to work for 5 hours and 15 minutes regardless of the starting time. Insert a time function in F6 to determine the ending time for this counter. So hour plus 5 and minute plus 15 and then time function to just combine it into time again. Okay, maybe here you can come and assist because I don't have a solution yet. If you subtract, okay, you subtract time and you subtract, let's say the time is 2 o'clock in the morning and you subtract 1 hour, then it's 1 o'clock in the morning. And you subtract 2 hours, then it gets to 12 o'clock in the morning, like 0, 0. But the moment that you start subtracting 3, it gives you an error. And my logic is telling me it's because time has got a day inclusive there. So the moment that it goes to a previous day, it doesn't know what to do. Am I right? I don't know if it's true. Okay. So what happens is you can subtract, but you cannot for time. You cannot subtract beyond 12 o'clock the previous, like 12 o'clock this morning. Because then immediately it goes back to the previous day and it gives you an error.
Yeah, so basically the thing is, time is a decimal of a day. Okay? So this that I've got here, I can actually make this one into time and date because I have a decimal as well. Okay? So that works fine, but the moment I use a time function, the time function disregards the integer number, which is the day. So then, the same as if I go minus 15, it doesn't take me to the year 18 something something, it just gives me an error. The same way if I've got 0,25, I've got 6 o'clock in the morning, because it's a quarter of a day, But if I go to minus 0.25, it doesn't give me 6 o'clock in the evening. It gives me an error because it can't go into a negative.
So when you set, the whole point of this whole thing was, if you ask questions, some of you take the questions and you just adapt it. Instead of like add 5 hours, 15 minutes, you go like, okay, subtract 5 hours, 15 minutes, for example. The problem with that is be careful when you give them the data that it doesn't go back to the previous day, because then it's a problem for Excel.
So Excel doesn't time travel to the past.
We wish. We want to go to the future to see what's going to happen. But we can't, unfortunately. Okay, so here's the solution. Same stories. It's hour, extract the hour. 5. Why did time not get a mark here, by the way? Because they probably told you use time. Alright? So if they tell you use time, you don't have to mark it. Okay, so if you've got too many marks in your question paper and you don't know where to decrease the marks, just tell them, okay, use the time function and you have that mark. Alright? So 5 hours and 15 minutes. Seconds could have been 0. You didn't have to have second E6. Okay? If there was no seconds.